here for a river boat cruise. But all the benches are wet because of the rain.
We have lots of options with that same pass. Looks like all are aboard that are coming aboard, which means we can go ahead and get started.
So foggy, unable to reach the top of that building. It's been raining the whole morning.
Anytime throughout our tour, but they are open right now. This is a live narrated tour. My name is Courtney. I will be your docent or your tour guide for this adventure on the Chicago River. Built in 1916, it was originally named Municipal Pier Number 1. There was a series of municipal piers outlined in the 1909 plan of Chicago water space to practice taking off and landing on aircraft carriers. One estimate has as many as 200 planes at the bottom of Lake Michigan. Just in 2021, they opened up the very first hotel on the premises, the Sable Hotel, unmatched views of this.
Okay, we're passing the first bridge and we're facing different architectural designs of the building. From left,
We are going to dive right into the architecture by talking about one of the newest skyscrapers on the Chicago skyline. 3 curving blue and green glass columns come together to create the St. Regis. The St. Regis, it was completed in 2020. It is currently the 3rd tallest building on the Chicago skyline. This is our city's 3rd tallest. However, it is the tallest building in the entire world, designed by a woman. One unit last year for $20.5 million. I do believe that gets you about 10,000 square feet. Serve as blow-through floors. The idea is that the wind will blow right through those floors rather than being absorbed by the core of the building and allowing for any movement up at the top. This building coming up on our right, this was completed in 1973 as the IBM building. It was designed by another very famous global architect, the German-born Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Ludwig Mies van der Rohe is considered the father of modernism. Modern style architecture looks just like this. It's just these sleek black boxes. The entire complex, completed in 1967, designed by a student of Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. His name was Bertrand Goldberg. This entire complex was employed to attract residents back to the central business district of Chicago, which we call the Loop. Metallic elements on the building's facade that create a sense of rhythm when you are looking at them, and stair-stepped edges up at the building's crown. In a nod to this building's retail roots, we've got these green head statues lining the river's edge. These are the princes of retail. Men such as Marshall Field, Aaron Montgomery Ward, Woolworth, Wanamaker, and more princes. You can see the oldest building of our tour coming into view, and that is this peachy kind of pink colored building that will be on our left. This peachy pink building is called Fulton House. Fulton House was originally constructed in 1898. At that time, it did not look like this. It did not have any windows. You see, Fulton House was constructed as a cold storage warehouse for raw meat. Chicago has a very rich meatpacking history. This bridge sticking up straight into the air. This is the Carroll Avenue Bridge. The Carroll Avenue Bridge was completed in 1908. At that time, it was the longest and heaviest lift bridge.
say something. Are you enjoying Mr. Mercado? Of course, first time in Chicago, right? So we're turning north. It's really a windy city.
The water once again.
We're
Just great
back.
to see kind of a timeline of how that happened. At each of the bridges, you may have noticed unique bridge houses. Last bridge, that one looks like a Nantucket beach house. Here you have the serial killer shed. It is what it is. Hasn't been touched since 1908. This is what it looks like to us. Totally fine. At each of the bridges, you have this unique bridge house. That's where the bridge tender goes up to operate the opening and the closing of the bridge. To the public as possible. All of this together left Catch Partners with an area
It's like
of
a
space
pencil
only
building.
39 feet wide at on which they could construct the base of the building. The base only uses 20% of the site. How does this building possibly stand upright? It is supported by a series of 16 structural support running 160.
They call it as a pencil
Right here in
building.
front of us. My favorite part about this building is Maine, and that is the fact that you can see the reflection of our boat going by in its funny shape. They think of everything. Next on the right is the Boeing headquarters. Giant gap in American construction, when they were actually often referred to at that time as the three blind mice. Little architectural style. International style is super easy to remember. You could pick that building up and put it anywhere in the world at that time and it would still make sense. It's not in conversation with its location at all. It's also one of the first internationally popular styles of building design. These were really region specific up until that point. It really wasn't until the 80s and 90s that we saw the really creative styles emerge again, like the wacky and whimsical postmodernism, or the site-specific contextualism, like Gateway Center 4, which is the curving green glass building on our right. Back over on the left, another great example of modernism. This is 300 South Wacker, and it was actually not included on our tours for many, many years. Being left out, so in 2014, they put a map on themselves to put themselves on the map. This mural, over 17,000 structures were destroyed. 17,000 buildings. It was absolutely devastating. However, it did give us the ultimate opportunity to rebuild and fix all of the mistakes that we had made the first time around. Architects and engineers flocked to the city of Chicago in the years following the Great Chicago Fire. It's hard to say when we would have started building our cities up instead of just out. 22 years after the Great Chicago Fire, we felt as though we had rebuilt enough to show off a little bit. So we bid to host the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition or the 1893 World's Fair. The process of bidding to host this fair is where we get our nickname, the Windy City. You see, we were talking a big game to the World's Fair Committee. We said, come on down to Paris on the prairie. Everything is perfect here, nothing ever goes wrong. A couple of New York City journalists weren't quite buying what we were selling. They published an op-ed piece. They said, why would you give the fair to those hillbillies down on the prairie in Chicago? They're full of hot air. They tell long-winded stories, they blow wind. Windy City is about how we talk. It's about how our politicians and our city officials have been known to inflate the truth, tell long-winded stories. But the joke's on everyone else in this case, because we won the bid and we hosted the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. Up at the top, that building with the statue, that is the Chicago Board of Trade building. The Chicago Board of Trade building was completed in 1930. It was the tallest in our city at that time. That statue, that is Ceres, the Roman goddess of grain and agriculture. Ceres is on top of our Board of Trade because Chicago is the home of grain futures trading. This building may also look familiar to you as Wayne Enterprises from Batman Begins. People often ask me, Courtney, what movie shows the most scenery from this tour? The answer to that is Divergent from 2014. That's a big undertaking if you're interested in post-apocalyptic Chicago, but the answer is
They have
Divergent.
BMO.
The building opened up as the world headquarters for the local Chicago Sears Company, and it was the tallest building in the entire world. The Sears Tower is 1,451 feet tall, or 442 meters. It remained the tallest building in the world for almost 25 years. Very long time to hold that title. That was until the completion of the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, upseated in 1998. Not get to count toward the building's official heights. They are considered to be purely utilitarian. It's just technical equipment. Counter that with the spike on top of One World Trade Center. That is not called an antenna at all. That is called a spire. A spire is a decorative design choice. It is considered to be inherent to the building's overall design. It would not be One World Trade Center if the spire was not there. Therefore, it does get to count for the building's official heights. Throughout history, you have successfully scaled the outside of the Sears Tower, bottom to top. First was an American man in the 1980s. He was wearing a homemade Spider-Man suit. Of course, he used suction cups to get up to the top. History calls him Spider Dan. occupant was a Frenchman in the 1990s, and he used nothing but his bare hands and toes. Peter Parker, arrested at the top. Free Solo, arrested at the top. It's just how it goes. The Sears Tower can still safely sway up to 18 inches in any direction.
Close
In
up the
Latin,
clock.
Just for
See?
fun, just for aesthetics, Latin alphabet does not contain the letter U. That lettering was just added in the last 40 years or so. It's actually not part of the building's original design. We're gonna bring it into the future. Coming up on our right, you have one of the more recently completed elevator to your desired floor without you having to touch a thing. It's part of a whole wave of post-pandemic architectural technology. There is a building going up in the Fulton Market neighborhood of Chicago with the world's first foot-operated elevator. The future is now a flat parking lot. We have improved the space here at Wolf Point. Curved green glass building. This is 333 West Wagger, or the Nuveen building. You have a very strong attention to detail. It is also Ferris Bueller's dad's office building. It's another great example of contextualism from 1983. The curve and the color of the building mimic the curve and the color of the river below. Underneath the Nuveen building is new public art. This is called The People in Your Neighborhood. These are all real Chicagoans. This was designed by local street artist Don't Fret. His identity is a secret, like Banksy. This marks the westernmost point of the Chicago River Walk. There's a gold leaf that is roughly 1/5,000th of an inch thick. For this reason, the jeweler's building was originally outfitted with a car lift, or an elevator for your car. This was in order to facilitate the safe transfer of both jewels and people. The building is also very famous from having been featured in the hit Chicago documentary, Transformers: Dark of the Moon. If you drop your eyes down next door, you'll find folks hanging out at the rooftop bar at the London House Hotel. The rooftop bar at the London House Hotel was recently voted #2 rooftop bar in all of these United States. Drives us bonkers. We hate being #2 as stuff, but it is a great rooftop bar. You should totally check it out. #1, the W Hotel in Continental was originally constructed as the Medina Athletic Association, and that dome was a marketing tactic. The Shriners, they said, "Come, join our gym. We even have a place for you to land your blimp." You see, the Shriners thought that in the future, all of us would be floating around town by a personal blimp. Onion-shaped dome is where you just tie yourself on your way to work out. Unfortunately for the Shriners, not long after this building went up, the Hindenburg disaster went down. The greatest newspaper in the entire world. It's the actual name of the contest, only a little bit embarrassing. Over 200 entries. This was their winning design. Associate Stuart Wilhelm was a grandson. He's a grandson of Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, still alive. He actually lives in the area. This fountain celebrates the reversal of the river. When it is on, and it's currently off for a little structural repair, shoots a giant arc of water over the river, but that's not what it was constructed for. It was constructed in the 30s after other Great Lakes states and Canada pursued legal action against the city of Chicago because they were worried about how much water from the Great Lakes was coming out of the Great Lakes and into the Mississippi River system. Two water systems meeting right here in this spot. They were just making sure that not too much of that fresh water was ending up in the Gulf of Mexico. Anywhere you see bright orange shirts or jackets, you can ask someone if you would like to purchase lake tour tickets, the Skyline Lake Tour. Once the captain is bringing the boat into the wall, the deckhands will come around to remind you as well.